I'm back with another video here reacting to Morgan and Morgan at Volume Intent. Am I saying that right? This guy, he's a goat. He's a goat entrepreneur. But Morgan and Morgan, he lives in Orlando. I live in Orlando. I seen him in person before at my church, and his story is just so moving and so powerful. So he has 10 minutes in this interview to inspire us or to keep it moving to the next video to react to. But we'll start with 10 minutes on the clock, and I'll see you after this 10 minutes.
He is like the main name.
Bill Clinton was never on the island.
He told you this?
Many times. He was never on the island.
He's on the flight log, isn't he?
Listen, he was on the planes.
But never went to the island.
Never. Epstein ain't worth
$107 million.
He ain't worth $17. But if you got a bunch of pictures with people pissing on you, nude, and orgies, now the real question is, would Epstein have ever really pulled the trigger?
Rob, you're not going to go any lower, are you?
No. That's...
Is that what I think it is?
He's got an elevator button, it looks like.
He's got an elevator button.
I'll tell you that guy on the left, I want to be him. That guy needs a fucking holster.
Honey, John Morgan's talking about your dangling, and he was actually very complimentary. No way, babe.
You're schlong.
You're schlong.
Loki kind of regretting clicking on
this. Are
this.
you suing Disney? Are they suing?
What do y'all feel like?
With ads.
Okay.
Every ad I do, I want it to be so great that the viewer rewinds the TV to watch it again.
We watched this already a couple times.
Right. Because when you first watch it, you're like,
nah, this guy's goated for one particular thing like that a lot of people overlook, and it just shows you like the mindset for a lot of people. So basically, back then when like phone books was like a huge thing back then, right? For those who know, you know, right? So he noticed that people weren't using, or the price for the back of the phone book wasn't as expensive as the top of the phone books. So he basically just decided like, all right, we're just going to use the back of the phone books to advertise my law firm. So he spent like a good amount of money, and he's like, the odds is 50-50, because when they would pass out the phone books, they would flip it, turn it, whatever the case may be, when they're just throwing it onto the people's properties. And that like blew up because of the fact that he had a placement of his law firm on the back of the book. So I don't know if he's gonna talk about it, but it literally like exploded his law firm just because he's like mass pushing and promoting, regardless of where or who the person is. He just used that small little window to kind of market himself and his company. And now it's one of the biggest law firms. This is not like a paid promotion unless you want to promote and advertise for the kid. Let me know. Sponsors are opened.
how the F did he get away with this?
Yeah.
Well, he's going to be sued. So that's what I want. I call it Purple Cow. So when the Steamboat Willie IP ran out, that would be a Purple Cow moment.
Commercial.
And guess what? They're the same people that fucked with my brother Tim when I was 19 years old. I came back. I didn't forget. I'm like Trump. Retribution.
We all know the importance of adding fruits and vegetables to our diet. The hard part is actually doing it. That's why here...
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so I can taste sweet.
Right here. Today, guys, every once in a while you can use this word. We don't drop this word all the time. One, because you don't want to over edify guests if they don't meet this criteria. When you say a legend, my guess is a legend. You know, and you can go anywhere. One moment I tell you John Morgan, you've seen the ads. The man spent $350 million last year. He's planning on doing $500 million this year. And as you give him a billboard, he wants it. It doesn't matter what it's facing. He wants it. Even if it's in the middle of the ocean, he's going to find some fish and shark and dolphins that got into a fight that he thinks they can represent. Over 1,000 attorneys, over 3,000 employees, I believe, all over the place. Incredible at marketing and interesting on the political side. Obama supporter, Biden, Hillary Clinton, but then Trump. So, and then, issues with Disney and lawsuits with Disney. Just you're all over the place. We want to learn more about you, but it's great to have you on the podcast today, John.
Everywhere for everyone. That's my motto.
Everywhere for everyone. Okay. So I just met your son. I think you got 4 kids,
Yes.
if I've seen it. I do as well. And before we get into all these stories, for someone to go from where you were at to now having this great success story that you have, maybe walk us through how the whole thing happened. How did you go from, wanting to become a lawyer to a law firm to where you have today?
Well, it started when I was a sophomore in college. I got a phone call from my dad. My brother Tim was a lifeguard at Disney World, been in an accident, was a quadriplegic, drove in, hit his head on a thing, and I got called. I went home, and that changed our lives forever. During that process of his injury and his problems, I got embroiled in the whole legal process. We were very poor people. Our mother had already left. Our dad kind of had a drinking problem. I was the oldest, so I was kind of the quarterback of it all. So I got very engaged in his injury.
How old were you at that time?
Sophomore in college, 19.
So you're 19 years old. You're not thinking about being a lawyer.
I'm thinking about being a lawyer because I suck in science and math. So,
Okay.
That was out. Doctor was out. CPA was out. Scientist was out. Astronaut was out. So I was thinking about being a lawyer, but I didn't know what personal injury was.
Who were you in high school? Like, if 10th
Winter
grade.
Park High.
Well, who were you in high school?
I was in high school?
Were you the athlete? Were you the debate guy?
I was
Were
the
you the
treasurer I did magic at Walt Disney World in high school. I was that guy. I was like Steve Martin.
Got it.
Yeah, I was a magician at Walt Disney World.
entertaining personality?
Yes. I was very popular in high school.
Okay.
I was at the cool table.
Makes sense.
And
So this event happens to your brother.
happens to my brother.
He becomes a paraplegic
He's
because of the accident.
quadriplegic. Yes.
Quadriplegic.
And then it all begins, the process.
Got it.
And Disney was so rough on him and so tough on him. And so I got in that process. And the thing about that process, when you're on the other side of it and you're poor and you're helpless and you're hopeless and you're powerless, you can't imagine the frustration. And I became enraged. And as it all went down, I said to myself, I was going to be a lawyer, but now I know what I want to do. So when I went to law school, I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to come back and take care of the people like my brother Tim against the corporations like Disney and those type of people. So that's how it all started. That's how I got into personal injury, was my own brother's personal injury. And look, it all worked out for him. I mean, he became a super quad, so he was able to drive a car. He passed away a year and a half ago, unfortunately.
Sorry to hear.
When I met with the doctor, when he was being discharged, the doctor said he will not live to 30. And I said, you are effing wrong. I got up, I walked out. He lived till 65.
Wow.
But he also came and worked inside my business with me. So every day in my business life, my brother Tim, we ended the day talking about the day. And so it's his injury is the most devastating thing that ever happened to me because, I was trying to manage the medical, trying to manage the lawsuit. But later in life, he came to work with me, and him and his dog would come up every day to say goodbye. And it was a wonderful thing.
That's cool. And do you notice that as a pattern? You made it at the highest level business-wise. You're successful. You're a billionaire. You've done very well for yourself. And you have friends who are at that same level, who have made your kind of success. Do you notice a pattern with a dramatic, like especially not for millionaires, not for decamillionaires or hector, but mainly billionaires? Do you notice a pattern with extreme amount of pain at a young age? What do you notice with the top 0.0001% of America, which is only 1,200, 1,300 billionaires in America? What do you notice a pattern with them?
Well, here's the pattern for people my age. I've got a new book I'm writing called Life is Luck, the Paper Boy. One pattern I understand is this, especially my age. I'll meet people my age and I'll say, were you a paper boy? And they'll say, yeah, why? I can tell. There's a genetic seed that goes in to the paper boy because the paper has to be delivered every day in the snow, in the sleet, in the cold. You have to get up and do it. Warren Buffett was a paper boy. Oprah Winfrey was a paper girl. Walt Disney was a paper boy. Have your viewers Google famous paper boys. So I think the one pattern is there's a genetic entrepreneurial seed. You have it. I could tell as soon as I walked in, I'm like, this guy, I don't know if you had papers, but I guarantee you something when you were 11, 12, 13, you were hustling something. I don't know what. Today, it's everybody's on YouTube and coding and all that. That's the new paper route. So that's the one thing. And the next thing is what I wrote a book about called You Can't Teach Hungry. There is something inside of you when you're poor that I talked about, that helplessness, that powerlessness, that hopelessness that makes you hungry. And it can't be taught. You can't, like your guy that I met coming in, the comedian, you can't teach funny. There's certain things that cannot be taught. And that's the pattern I want. Usually there's an entrepreneurial bent. Mark Cuban, we're pen pals. We talk all the time. He was selling like trash bags door to door. His brother was a paper boy. And so those are the things that I notice most.
Hey, Rob, can you pull up the list you just pulled up, which was very interesting, guy? Benjamin Franklin, paperboy. Thomas Edison, paperboy. Eisenhower, Truman, MLK, Saranov, Joe DiMaggio was a paperboy. Walt Disney was a paperboy. Buffett, paperboy. Tom Cruise, Bob Hope, John Wayne. Who else you got there on the bottom? David Simmons. Very interesting on the paperboy.
It's unbelievable. How old are you?
I'm 47.
Okay, so you might be too young to have been a paper boy. I don't know. But I don't know what you did at 11, 12. Tell me.
In Germany, I used to go to the local swimming pool, refugee camp we lived in Erlangen. And the owner of that pool, guys would drink a lot of beer. And I was the one that would go there first thing in the morning, and I would collect all the beers at this. If you type in Erlangen massive swimming pool and you go to images, you'll see it. I saw it the other day. I may be visiting Germany to go see this place. But I was always out there hustling, selling hats, selling baseball cards, collecting beer bottles in Erlangen to buy a Super Mario Brothers at Kaufhof. But there was a hustle in there. Always.
Listen, you're born with the hustle.
Yeah.
You're born with that hustle. And it's not necessarily like Warren Buffett's dad was a congressman and a stockbroker. And so it's not necessarily, but there's that hustle that you can't teach. You're born with that hustle.
Okay, so let's go to the next question, because I'm at a Family Founders event at Goldman Sachs 3 weeks ago, and I'm at a Solomon Partners event last night in Miami Beach. Okay, both of them, they have Dallas had Ross Perot Jr. there, and the owners of the NASCAR family, as well as Emmett Smith and others, and they're talking about G2, G3, G4, and how do you pass the wealth on to the next. And then last night, they had the founder of 1-800-Flowers, the Perry Ellis family, and all these other guys that are in the room. Similar type of conversation on how you pass it on. The guy that was running Perry Ellis is the son of the founder of Perry Ellis, so it's kind of like, you got 4 kids, and you're a G1. You made the money, and you made a lot of money. So how are you setting up the estate plan?
I know we reached the 10-minute mark. I want to hear this last segment, but yeah, if y'all could already tell, I haven't really put any input in what they were talking about because it's so interesting and already captivated me. So let me hear what he has to say about passing wealth down, and we will definitely watch the next episode of this.
And the living trust and the expectation of which one of your kids comes into the business. If one does not, then how do you set it up with the grandkids? Then if they marry somebody else, like, oh my God, I'm marrying a Morgan, so I'm going to get the money. And how do you protect your sons from who they marry to make sure they're doing it for the right reasons? How do you process the entire legacy planning with your wealth?
With Bluehost's AI-powered site creation tools, I made a custom WordPress website for my vintage clothing store in...
All right, first, all my children are married. All my children have prenups. In my estate, it works like this. If you don't have a prenup, you don't take under the will.
Bingo.
So I become the bad guy. And every time I tell people this, I don't know how old your kids are, you will remember this, believe me. So you don't want your kid to have to be the bad guy. You're the bad guy. So my kids could say, hey, my dad, my dad. Now, if you don't want to sign it, we're not getting shit.
That's right.
And so that's the first thing. The prenups are fairly tough.
Okay.
Like, one lawyer said this is the most egregious document I've ever read.
Egregious.
Egregious.
I'm sure you took it as a compliment.
I said by design.
By design.
By design.
Yeah.
And so, but listen, the daughter-in-laws, the son-in-law, I love these folks, but I'm not going to have a situation where somebody can come in and, my one son, Matt, said, because he was the first one, he's like, well, Daddy, maybe I put a clause in there that if I cheat on my wife, that is a null and void. I go, no, because we don't need to have any litigation. He goes, I'm not going to cheat. I said, I know you're not. His mother's
good question to ask, though.
But he asked that question. I said, let's just get the document signed. So I did that years ago in 2008. I had when everything crashed.
Right.
I had everything appraised, and I gave the big gift to him where you could give up to like 25 million. So I did that. I built a company called Litify, which was a software company. And what I did with that, I took Litify and I just put I put 20%, each one of my children, 20% for me. We sold it to Besmer at a $600 million valuation. We took 60%. But when we sold it, all my kids got the money.
God.
And then I used my 20% to toggle off and pay the taxes. So they took it tax-free. So I've done a lot of things. You got to do a lot of things de novo early on where there's no basis. And then the lucky thing for me is because my law...
Man, these are the type of conversation that we got to be in. We got to be in these type of conversations. And one of the hacks is listening to podcasts like this. So I don't even want to rate it because it's so captivating. So I hope you guys take the time to really do your homework on Morgan & Morgan and his family and his legacy. But I hope to see you guys on the next video. Peace.